Guys, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to blow your mind. You never knew it before. I like Plants vs. Zombies. I know none of you guys would have guessed. It's not like it's where I get most of my subscribers from. And it's not like half my videos are based on it. So, I thought of the idea, what if I made a video ranking all of the games? But first, there are some rules. Number 1, international only games. So no Plants vs. Zombies 3 or any of those weird Chinese games that they have. Next rule, the game must still be playable. So if you're hoping to see Plants vs. Zombies Adventures on this, is too bad. The worst Plants vs. Zombies game, in my opinion, is Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. Now, I don't think Plants vs. Zombies Heroes is a bad game. I don't think there are any bad Plants vs. Zombies games. This game's just kind of mediocre, and it just happens to be the worst out of all of them. But, yeah, it's kind of not a game that I would willingly play. I don't wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh my gosh, I need to play Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. It's something I play during the car or on the bus to school. And it can be sort of fun, and it actually is pretty satisfying when your combo or your strategy actually works. So for that, it's in the last place. In 5th place, we have Plants vs. Zombies 2, which is a decent game, although I feel like in its later years, it's kind of not been treated the best in terms of monetization. So when Plants vs. Zombies 2 first came out, there were a couple plants that you could only buy, and there was some microtransactions in there, which it wasn't that big of a deal compared to how it is now. But in its later years, they introduced seed packets where, if you don't know what they are, you can use seed packets to make your plant stronger. But the majority of plants that are really cool are really only worth using if you use seed packets, which you get through these things called piñatas, which are kind of like loot boxes, to be honest, because you just get a random amount of seed packets for a random plant, and it's not really anything in your control. And there's just a lot of other things that kind of shady in terms of how they want to make money, especially since this is a kid's game. I don't think there should be things that are kind of like gambling in it. And also, the one thing I do like is this game's art style. It looks very nice, and the music is just spectacular. It's probably the best out of any of the games. Either this or the original Plants vs. Zombies has the best soundtrack. But the only last problem I have with this game is that I feel like there's not as much strategy as there was in the original Plants vs. Zombies. In Plants vs. Zombies 1, you kind of had to tactically pick which plants you were going to use depending on what zombies were coming at you in the level. In this game, that's not completely out. That does happen sometimes, but for the majority, it's like, oh, use the most damage-dealing plants, woohoo, you win. And a majority of those plants, you need to feed into the microtransactions to get. So, yeah. Plants vs. Zombies is a decent game, just the monetization, I think, could be more consumer-friendly. So, on to the next game. At number 4, we have Battle for Neighborville. Now, from here on out, I think this is like the really good games in the series. But Battle for Neighborville is not a bad game. A lot of people overhate on this game, I feel like, because although taking out the variants from Garden Warfare 2 does remove a lot of replayability, and this game is pretty glitchy, people, I feel, overreact on the glitches. There's not as many as people say they are, and even the ones that they do have, they don't destroy the game and make it completely unplayable. And although the balancing for the majority of this game's life was not very good, because you could take a character that was super unplayable from one update to them just dominating the entire game the next update. And I feel like in the last update, they really just balanced the game out well. So it's in the state that the game is in now, I feel like it's pretty decently balanced. And another thing that I feel like the game doesn't get enough credit for is the art style. I prefer the cartoony art style over the more realistic art style that Garden Warfare 1 and 2 had. And also, the story mode is fantastic. And it has things specifically made for it, like settings and missions and characters. It's just great. I also liked how they gave the game updates a lot. But I feel like there's also a lot of other bad things about it. They just did a lot of unnecessary things, like removing Battle Arena for no reason. They removed Battle Arena, and then 3 other game modes, Gnome Bomb, Suburbanation, and Vanquish confirmed. Which I don't get, because people were already complaining about replayability. What made them think, oh, let's just remove 4 game modes from the game? So the game's kind of lacking in modes now. The only things that are really worth doing our Team Vanquish and Turf Takeover, because most of the weekly game modes are not that great. Although we do have Battle Arena on right now, which is pretty good. But I'm getting off track. I feel like the upgrade system didn't really replace the variants that well. There are a couple ways that you can make the characters feel completely different with the upgrades, but there's only a couple loadouts that really work like that. They're not, and even then, they're not as noticeable as the variants are most of the time. But this game is good. I think it's the worst out of all of the Plants vs. Zombies shooter games, but I still think that people hate on it a bit too much. So, yeah. On to number 3.
Oh,
now,
jeez.
Trying to get nostalgia out of the way, but in third place we have Garden Warfare 1.
See, I'm not even doing number 1 right now.
Garden Warfare 1 was a very good game, and it kind of blows my mind still to this day how, even though this game was made 6 years ago, it's so fascinating how they managed to turn a simple 2D tower defense game into a third-person shooter and still keep it fun and charming, just like the original. I don't remember the game in terms of character balancing completely, but from what I remember, there were definitely characters that were stronger than others, but there weren't any, at least in the final products, like after all the updates were finished, that were completely broken. There were certainly some characters that were extremely weak, like the Berry Pea Shooter, but yeah. This game still looks pretty decent for a 2014 game, and although to today's standards it doesn't look fantastic, I still think that the character models are pretty decent, and in my opinion, this game has the best maps out of any of the Plants vs. Zombies shooters. In my opinion, Garden Warfare 2 maps were not the best. That's why I was really happy when Walnut Hills came to the game. And although Battle for Neighborville Turf Takeover maps are recreations of Garden Warfare 1 maps, I wish that they just brought them over instead of changing them just to the point where they're not that different. Like, they're different enough to the point where you don't really feel like you're actually playing on the maps, but they're different enough to where it just doesn't feel completely new. But all in all, this game was very good. In my opinion, it had the best maps out of all of the PvZ shooters, and definitely, by far, the best customizations, although Battle for Neighborville might be contending with that spot, though, in my opinion. In second place, we have the original Plants vs. Zombies. Now, this is getting some people mad, like, what do you mean in second place? It should be in first place. But I have my reasons, now. I don't think there's anything really bad about this game at all. This game is, I don't see any flaws with it. Like, some people might say that the graphics are a bit dated, but it's cartoony, so I don't really see how it can look bad, because it's not trying to look realistic at all. I like the art style. I think it's pretty good, and it's kind of unique how I'm not sure if anyone knew this, because it's not extremely apparent, but what they try to do is make the plants kind of the creepy things, and the zombies the more goofy things. I don't really see that much. Maybe with like a couple plants, such as the spikeweed or jalapeno, I can see how they're supposed to be more realistic. But the plants, like the sunflower, looks adorable. But I'm getting sidetracked. There's just nothing really wrong with this game that I can see. It's just fun. You can it's one of those games that you could just play whenever you're bored, or a game that you could actually just get up from in the middle of your day and actually want to go and play it. And the game is actually surprisingly replayable, because there's such a lot of content, because they have all the different mini games, all these different strategies you can use, and unlike Plants vs. Zombies 2, where it's just put down the most damage-dealing plants and you win, you actually need to have advanced thinking in order to do the best you possibly can in this game with all the different setups they have, because there's so many plants and there's so many possibilities that you can use to just come up with genius strategies. And this game is just so very charming. And not to mention, the soundtrack is just spectacular for this game. I can't think of a single bad track in this entire game. All the music is just so iconic and memorable, and just honestly just good to listen to. So, can you really beat the original? Well, one game can. If you've been paying attention, you probably know what that one game is. Now, in my opinion, what is the best Plants vs. Zombies game of all time is Garden Warfare 2. Now, Garden Warfare 2 is probably just such a good game. Now, it definitely has its flaws, but there's just the good just outweighs the bad so much. The character balancing, although not perfect, is surprisingly good for a game with, what is it, like 118 characters. And it's just, it has some pretty decent single player. Not as good as Battle for Neighborville's, but it's not that bad with the missions that you can do. There's just so much variety because you have over 100 variants. You have 8 whole classes on each side, which is 16 classes in total. 7 on both sides, which have variants. And then there's over 100 variants, which then you can customize their abilities, their upgrades, and even do how they look. So it's just like a game that's just built for you to never get tired of it. And in the 4 years that I've owned Garden Warfare 2, I just had so much fun playing it. It's been a blast. It's just, there's so many things to do. I've been playing this game since the beta, and I still don't even have all the characters yet, but that's probably just my fault for not being the best at the game, not playing Infinity Time that much. But you understand, it's just a great game, and it's just a masterpiece. PopCap did a great job making this game. So, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell to know about all my videos. And let me know if you agree with any of my picks or disagree. I want to know what you guys think. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah, goodbye.